Hello, I'm Carol Bokros. I'm from Mercer University.
And I'm Joyce Fagel from Shoreline Community College, which is near Seattle and Washington.
And I'm Jamie Sperandio from Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis.
And today we're presenting pre-health professions advising through the Canvas LMS. All right, the background of this project is that there was a discussion thread on the NAAHP Connect listserv last summer about how to use Canvas to advise our students. And it generated a lot of interest, and a lot of people contacted the three of us looking for tips and to share what we knew. One of you want to take that one?
Okay, I'll go. So we decided to get together for this presentation and hope it will be helpful to you. So we thought that these would be the things that you'd be most interested in. You'd want some examples maybe. How are we each using Canvas for our advising content delivery? Some best practices for using this platform, but also some challenges that we face to use the platform. And altogether, we hope to assist you that maybe you would consider using Canvas for your resources or extending what you're already doing with Canvas.
So here's kind of the problem as we've identified it. Effectively serving all pre-health students can be a challenge for many advisors when resources aren't adequate. And we feel like most institutions don't have adequate resources to be able to serve their entire pre-health population. Advisors are often overloaded with students, unable to fully meet the competing demands of advising all pre-health students. And resources for pre-health advising often result in the need to find creative ways to disseminate advising content en masse.
Each of us has found that Canvas has been a solution to some of our problems. Canvas is a learning management system that's used by many institutions, so it's familiar to our students. It's easily accessible. It's also a great method to contact our students. I myself have stopped emailing students. I just message them through Canvas. They're already reading messages for their classes, so they're much more likely to read messages from us.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. I'm Carol. I'm from Mercer, which is a private university down in Georgia. We are a Baptist heritage institution because we were actually started as a seminary in 1833, but we're no longer affiliated with the Southern Baptist Convention, but have kept the Baptist heritage. We have 12 colleges and schools, almost 9,000 students, 5,000 of which are undergrads, and I advise only the traditional undergraduates on the Macon campus, which is 1,400 to 1,500 students in a given year. I created the course in summer of 2018 with the help of my instructional technology team, and we rolled it out in fall of 2018. It works when the students enroll themselves. I don't enroll the students. They have to take action and get in. And then in spring of 2019, the course that was originally called Mercer Pre-Health was evaluated by our technical communications department. There's a class on instructional design in that department that needed a project, and I was happy to volunteer mine to be critiqued. And they made some recommendations, and that was very helpful. I loved collaborating with them because now it's more user-friendly. We recently hired a pre-graduate school advisor, and so working closely with her, it became obvious that we needed to expand the Mercer Pre-Health course, and we made it, we changed it to Mercer Pre-Graduate and Professional School Advising, cleverly named GPS, and we had a graphic design intern create our logo for us. And so when students log into Canvas, they can see all their courses plus the GPS course, which of course is self-paced and is not for credit. They always think that it is, but if you click on the GPS icon, my landing page pops up, and you can see that up on top we've got two sets of links, one that goes to the pre-health professions advising pages, and the other one goes to my collaborators pages on preparing for regular graduate school that's not health related. Then in this table below, all of the people that might serve the students as they prepare themselves for graduate or professional work. Now, if we click on the pre-health professions advising, my homepage pops up and I've got a little letter of welcome. And I posted my open advising times, which I call casual advising, up near the top so that nobody is questioning when I'm available. But all other times I work by appointment. So the table 1 is a set of self-development modules, just a series of small assignments to help them sort through their reasons for wanting to go into healthcare and maybe developing their professionalism and that kind of thing. Then I have a link for FAQs, news, and resources, and that's a collection that I'll show you in a minute that's not track specific, but everybody should be interested in them. Some basic advice about medical experience abroad, and then table 2 are links to all of the track pages. So the FAQs and news and resources has advising information, but peripheral information that is important to the health professions, like communication and how to minimize implicit bias and prejudice in healthcare, compassion and trying to prevent burnout, taking care of oneself so that you prevent burnout. Those are the kinds of things that I have on that page. Now, the medical experience abroad, I won't spend much time on because, most of the links that are on here, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with University of Minnesota's GAPS, the Global Ambassadors for Patient Safety, etc. So it's all about cultural competency and about the ethics of providing service abroad. Now, clicking on a track page, of course, I'm clicking on the pre-med track page for you because that's over half of my business, and I'm assuming it's the same at your institutions. But every track page is organized in the same way. All of the documents and links and whatnot that I have for students to develop a strong application and develop their core competencies in the left-hand side. And in the right-hand column, it's mostly about how to submit your applications and then how to pay for graduate school and whatnot. And of course, I defer in almost everything to the professional organization. So there are a lot of links to AMCAS and ACOMAS and TMDSAS and that kind of thing. So my favorite features about having a Canvas course is the first one is that I love that students have to take responsibility. They have to self-enroll. They are taking the reins, as they travel down the road toward their own goals. And I can also check up on how much time they've invested. I can just go in and take a look at how many hours they've spent and what was the last page they were on. And that I promise them they cannot meet with me individually until they have completed module 1, which is a tour, course tour. I love how accessible it is, how flexible it is, and I also like that students who come in on one track but find an interest in another track, it's all in the same place so they can easily change direction. All of their options are visible and resources available. And that is my course.
My name is Joyce Fagel. I'm an advisor at Shoreline Community College. We are a community college located just north of Seattle, Washington. We have about 10,000 students, and we're a fairly typical community college. About half of our students are preparing to transfer to a university, and the other half are doing career training and professional training programs. We also offer ESL, English as a second language learning. We offer programs for students who never finished high school and other entry-level type programs. In addition, we now have a post-baccalaureate studies for the health professions. And this is something I started 4 years ago because we had post-bac students taking classes, but now we have some support services for them, and that is attracting more students to come to our college for that purpose. I myself work as a general academic advisor in the advising center, and then pre-health is my specialty area. Okay, so I created 2 Canvas classes, sort of classes, right? They're not actual credit classes, but I created 2 Canvas resource sites. So the first one is called Health Careers Exploration and Preparation. It is an open enrollment, self-enroll class. Students can enroll, and then it will show up in their Canvas dashboard that they are using for their other classes. The modules are to help students explore careers and know a little bit about how to prepare them. And so you can see the list of modules. And then I have an example of one module, the one about gaining experience, with the list of different pages within that module. And so this gives students access to really quite a lot of information. A lot of the pages also have links to other outside resources. And they can kind of browse in that back and forth as they wish. I also do use the announcements, so they'll get that together with whatever announcements they're getting from their other classes. And then I created another resource site specifically for the postback students. This one focuses very specifically on admission and aspects of admission to the graduate health professional schools. Those are very elaborate processes, as we know, so much more detail on that. There's kind of the sample module pages for admission. So again, you'll recognize all those topics: essay writing, letters of recommendation, how to do those things. The other part of that module is there's a lot of information about the MCAT in particular, and quite a bit about the GRE, and then some information about a variety of other tests. I'm still building that out in the future. Now, these have also been self-enrolled, but that is going to change. So starting fall 2020, our postback students will have like an opt-in, opt-out kind of thing for them. And so if they opt in, they will be officially enrolled in this. And then I will be using it more for the announcements and staying in touch. And it gives us some other options as well, maybe discussion boards on topics, whatever we want to do with that. What I really like about Canvas the very most is that it helps me keep things organized. Frankly, even for myself, because as we all know, we get these messages through NAAHP and interesting links, and where do you keep them? Because you have to be able to find them later. So this is actually helping myself a lot. But of course, then the big plus is I can give access to kind of whoever I want. So again, I can set it up for students, I can set it up for other advisors, and it's available to them. So that's all a huge plus. The announcements are in a platform that they are already looking at daily. So it's much more effective than email. And the other thing is that, I got it started and initially was pretty small, but I just keep adding on it. And you know how the monthly NAAHP newsletter like profiles a certain profession? Well, I just cut and paste that in these pages. And so gradually they're getting to be much more interesting, have much more information, some little stories and links again to little YouTubes or whatever we might have in our community. And then I also like that I have options for the future. I am thinking of building it into a credit class on career exploration in health professions. I have no idea when exactly that's going to happen, but that is something I have on my mind.
My name is Jamie Sperandio from Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. IUPUI is a public institution that is a joint venture between Indiana University and Purdue University to fill the gap for an urban research institution in the state of Indiana. So we are housed right in the heart of downtown Indianapolis, and our campus is home to many of the professional programs within the IU system. So on our campus, we have the School of Medicine, the School of Dentistry, as well as programs for physician assistant, physical therapy, occupational therapy. We are a relatively large institution. My office is housed within the Purdue School of Science, and so we support about 3,000 undergraduate students, 400 graduate students, and a little over 100 non-degree seeking postbac students. So this is my Canvas page. I started it in 2017, and it has evolved ever since. It is not the most visually interesting, but it does the job. So when we started, we were manually entering students into the Canvas page and have since evolved into a self-enrollment model where Canvas creates a link that I can embed in our website, in email communications and other things, and students that have the option to self-enroll, which is much more efficient. We have a number of pathways that have information that are obviously specific to each track. And then we have some content that's relevant across the pathway. And so, you know, a lot of those pages really came out of the request of students. You know, I had students who were saying, I don't know how to get involved in shadowing. Who do I contact? How do I contact them? What do I say? What do I expect? So we created a page around that. The most recent one, Understanding Your GPA, came out of students really not understanding how the GPA is calculated, what's the difference between their transcript GPA and the GPA that gets calculated by the CAS system. And so we created a whole page kind of educating them around that. So the pathway pages are all structured very similarly. This is the pre-med page, which, as you can imagine, is the most robust of our pathway pages. They all kind of follow a similar format where they're largely links right now. Those are to resources that could be PDFs, they could be website links, and they're kind of structured in a way that, you know, there's information for our early students, and then there's information for students to support them as they go through the application process as it relates to their specific CAS and entrance exam, and so forth. One of the features that I really like about Canvas is this idea of modules. And so within Canvas, our instructional design team partnered with our career services offices to create what we call the EDGE modules. And so these are a series of modules that students can use to help prepare them really in thinking about you know, gaining skills towards that post-graduation career. And so the modules are a much more interesting way for students to interact with information. As you can see from this Building Your Parallel Plan module, there's a mix of text and links and videos and activities, and they kind of move through and have a little bit more of a learning process. And so this is really great. This is something that we're hoping to adopt on a little bit of a smaller scale as we move forward. So our pathway pages, we're going to use some of the Canvas tools to make them a little bit more visually stimulating. The content pages, we are going to develop into, you know, modules to really kind of be able to support student learning. And that's a little bit more of a longer term project. The announcement feature is probably something that I use the most. So we don't use newsletters or listservs or anything in our office. If I have things to communicate with students en masse, it goes through the Canvas page. And so I tag all of my announcements, whether that be for a particular pathway or a particular you know, reason, maybe it's shadowing or something. And so then as students have set their own notifications, whether they're getting an email every time an announcement goes out, or, you know, once a day or once a week, or they've completely turned them off and they go into the Canvas page itself to look at announcements, they can identify which information is relevant to them. There are a lot of things I like about having a Canvas page. I think the probably the most important is that this is really an opportunity for students to take ownership of their own education and research. So we've done, you know, the heavy lifting of putting everything in one place and simplifying the process so that students don't have to scour the internet. And we've done, you know, some very basic vetting of information. But students have the opportunity to have access to this 24/7. They can go back to it over and over again. And so it's really something that, you know, they drive that process. I also really like that it's integrated with a technology that they're already very familiar with and use on a daily basis. So all of our courses have Canvas sites. Most of our academic advisors have Canvas sites for their advising caseloads. Since we've moved to virtual teaching, a lot of that teaching and instruction has moved into Canvas itself. So this is something that students are using on a daily basis throughout the day. And I don't have to worry about it being on another website or a different platform or something that they have to access. It's just right at their fingertips. The flexibility of the platform is great. So depending upon what your student need is or what your level of comfortability with technology is, or what kind of technology assistance you might have on your campus. There's a lot of different ways to create a Canvas page and make it work for you. You know, if there's functionality that you like, great. If there's functionality that you don't like, you turn it off. You turn it off, you might turn it on again later. We're launching our discussion boards in the fall so that students can have a little bit more interaction with each other through the platform. And so that's something that, you know, has been turned off that we're going to be turning on. And then again, I really like the announcement feature. Students can search through announcements. So, you know, because I've tagged them, they can go back and, you know, look for things that are relevant to pre-med students, or look for things that are relevant to shadowing, or whatever that might be. And so that's particularly helpful for our students as well. So yeah, that is my Canvas page.
Canvas still poses some challenges. It doesn't solve all of our problems, but for me, one of the biggest issues is that students don't enroll when I ask them to, which is a problem. They'll end up, you know, missing out on some great opportunities. In general, I think that the risk of habituation and visibility in announcements as opposed to emails seems to be a little bit less. And I think we all three agree on that.
Yes, because students are also looking for announcements from their other classes in Canvas, I think they're just more likely to look at these. And then development time can be, I mean, there's some development time involved. I just want to remind people that you can start really small and then just add on. So it's not like you have to start out with huge content included from the get-go. Also, keeping information up to date. I mean, that's always a challenge, no matter what platform you're using. I actually think it's easier with using Canvas than anything else I've used before. So, but it doesn't go away. I think my biggest concern is that it becomes very text heavy. And so for students, the experience of looking at the material maybe isn't always as interesting because there's so much text there. And then I have some concerns of accessibility for students with visual impairment in particular, as well as, again, students who have internet access issues. Well, they have a lot of issues in college, but this would just add and be another one for them.
So one of the issues that we faced when manually adding students is that they can't self-remove from the site, which is part of the reason that we moved to self-enrollment. Another issue is the analytics are not ideal for long-term tracking of student usage unless you're having students submit assignments or quizzes or things. The analytics tools will give you some information, but they don't do a really good deep dive. And then one thing that I found that can be a challenge is that students can control their own notifications, which means they can turn them off and not get important announcements that we send.
So our conclusion is that Canvas can provide an effective platform to meet some of the advising needs of our students.
And Canvas also allows us as advisors to track student activity and their progress. It does depend on how you set that up, you know, what you can track. But if you'd like to do that, you can.
We thank the many people at our respective institutions who have helped us along the way. And we thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.